Hello, everyone, and welcome to another elite episode of the Get Authentic with Marques show. My name is Marques Ogden. On today's episode, we are joined by Mr. Zach O'Brien. But before we bring up Zach to the stage, we want to thank one of our amazing sponsors, Crown Wealth Group, with Mr. Zach O'Brien. So we're excited to have him on the show today to talk about his business and what he does. And you know what? Let's bring him on down. How you doing today, Zach?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem, man. Zach, first question, sir. What does the word authentic/authenticity mean to you?
I think being authentic starts with understanding of who we are. For most of us, we actually don't know who we are. We try to act as society wants us to. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people can see that through. Me and four of my best friends were sitting down at a golf course 2 weeks ago all together and actually had this conversation for almost 2 hours. The older we get, the more that we notice, people just aren't truthful with who they are. And people really don't care if you can't admit your own mistakes, have ownership of who you are, tell somebody the truth, be vulnerable at times, and just understand that your actions, they speak for themselves, whether they're good or bad or indifferent.
You know, Zach, you said a lot of things there that are just so compelling. You talk about ownership, owning things in your life. I have an acronym for BISON. I'm a Howard University BISON graduate. And I talk about because a bison will charge directly to the eye of the storm. And the O is ownership. So I'm huge on that. And then you talk about, vulnerability. To me, right, Zach, vulnerability is a superpower. It allows you to be and connect with others through being real and being vulnerable and showing them who you truly are. So I love this. Zach, can you please tell our global audience a little bit more about your personal story, then of course, you getting involved with Crown Wealth Group?
Yeah, so I was probably a person that most people would consider weird as a kid. I loved math. I loved helping people. And my uncle was a financial advisor at the time, or still is. And I reached out to him and he kind of explained the life that he was living. He was getting to spend time with his kids, be a coach, be very active in his community. And he explained to me the concept of financial planning. And at that point, I knew I wanted to be a financial advisor. So again, I was one of the weird kids that in third grade, I knew my career path. I knew what I was going to go to college. I was going to double major in finance and accounting. And I was going to start down this path. I started right out of college after I had played football at Lenoir-Rhyne, a little Division II school in Hickory, North Carolina, with a firm that was not designed for what my true passions were, helping people, fully extending ourselves. I'd always had a passion to work with athletes. I knew I couldn't become a professional athlete, but I wanted to be able to help those athletes through a lot of the things that I became a professional in, understanding what their finances were, how behavioral finance works inside of people, whether you need to have a big, huge savings net, or if you need to be more aggressive. There are differences between couples, brothers, sisters, family members that we've come to find over time, and it's been a really good thing for me. I left the firm, the original firm I was with, back in 2020, February 2020. And came over to Crown, working with my best friend. I've known him now for over 30 years, Nick. Kolbenschlag is the founder and one of the owners of Crown Wealth Group. He brought me in. We are working with high and ultra high net worth individuals. We completely customized plans for them. As I was sitting and working with my business coach, he looked at me and goes, if you had to pivot at all, how would you pivot and change? And I sat there for a long time. I thought about it and realized that I had kind of buried a dream of helping athletes. So I put together a business plan and presented it to Nick. I am now the managing director of our athlete division. So I'm very fortunate that he's allowing me to live out that dream of mine. So I'm helping young athletes, whether they're going through their NIL contracts or being drafted, or they've been in the league for 7 or 8 years. So our platform was really designed for the high and ultra high net worth client. And so we've made some adjustments and some tweaks, obviously understanding that athletes are going to make their money in a very short income window. So making sure that they're not making a lot of the mistakes that we can make in other professions. You know, as your career is starting, you can make some mistakes and your income is going to be higher as time goes on. For these athletes at 18 years old, they're signing contracts right now for $400,000 or $500,000 a year. It's amazing. It's a great opportunity for them right now, but we also want to make sure that they understand where the money's coming, where it's going. You know, the biggest person in your pocket is called the IRS, and setting enough money aside and making sure that they're okay for those scenarios down the road is a big part of that.
Zach, I love this because as a former athlete that played the National Football League, I can tell you the work you're doing is so much needed. I mean, I can go so many different ways with this awesome conversation. Let's go here. What is it about athletes, Zach, that you find that you are drawn to, that you have a connection with? And what is it about the athletes that you want to work with? Why do you want to do it? Because it takes a special person, I feel, to understand how athletes think, what they go through, the ups, downs, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Again, when I was playing, it was a lot different than I am today. I've always been very focused, but it's just a different level of focus, mindset, discipline. Because as an athlete, your body's on the line every single day, every single play. So, what is it about? Why do you have a love and the desire to work with athletes? What's your big why in that area?
It's interesting. My business coach, we spent a lot of time thinking through this, and I built out our family values and my personal values, and grit is the number one attribute that I look at in people that I spend time with, that I surround myself with, that I want to strive to be more like. I was not a fast kid. I was a very slow, awkward athlete growing up, never made an all-star team, and I wanted to be better. And I put in the work. I put in the time. I literally was dragging a tire up and down a road in front of my parents' house when I was 9 years old because I just wanted things. I've always had this drive and this desire. Now, I never made it to the National Football League, but I did get to play college football. And I know what a locker room's like. It meant a lot to me. The people inside that locker room are some of my best friends. They're the people that you go out there, like you said, and you risk your health and your mental capacity sometimes out on a field with these people. You in theory go to war with them on a given Friday night or a Saturday, and for some of the fortunate ones on Sundays. It's something that I'm very passionate about, helping them. There's a lot of people out in this world that we're in, financial advisors that claim to be advisors and looking out for people's best interests, but they're not. They put themselves on a pedestal, and they say that they do all of these things and they want to look out for what's best for people, but they're putting them into products or individuals into things that don't fit with what they need. And unfortunately, they don't have the knowledge sometimes or the experiences to go back and go, well, this just doesn't seem right. The fish test of kind of taking a sniff and going, yeah, I don't know. If you don't have anything to compare it to, how do you know you're making a bad decision? And so, the athletes that are making millions and unfortunately filing bankruptcy after they're done playing is a staggering number. It's something that I want to be there to help people. At the end of the day, if they can go and have a successful career and we can turn around what they've worked really hard for and allow them to have whatever job they want, whether that's a middle school football coach or a high school football coach or working at the local golf course, if they can supplement their income with the earnings that they had in the beginning, it makes life so that they can do whatever they want to. They don't have to make decisions based on finances. And so positioning those things, protecting them, a big part of my job right now is being the watchdog, the bad guy for a lot of my clients. I allow them to let me be the scapegoat. Hey, my advisor just said this wasn't a good place for me to put some money. And or, hey, I need to do XYZ because my advisor told me that. I tell them all the time, blame me. It doesn't matter to me. You're paying me regardless, and I'm here to help make your life easier. So if you need to blame me, let that be the case.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly why we are so proud to work with Zach as a sponsor of our show, because that last statement is so big. Let me be the scapegoat. If you don't want to do something and put it on me, that's the sign of somebody that serves their clients to the truest level, because well, Zach sure knows, athletes get hit up all the time for money from family, friends. Invest in this, invest in that, go into this business, go into that business. And a lot of times these players don't know how to say no to friends or family, and that can be difficult. So having someone like Zach on your team that you can trust and rely on is huge. And so, Zach, let's dive deeper into this, right? Because you said something. So now, this is an older article. I am not sure how true this is now. So I'm going to say that. I'm going to open up with saying that. But there was an article in USA Today a number of years ago that 78% of NFL athletes, if I'm not mistaken, that was the number, yes, 78% file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy within, I think it's 5 years of retirement. And I filed my Chapter 7 bankruptcy. I retired in 2000. Wow. I was exactly at the 5 year mark. I retired in 2008. I filed my Chapter 7 bankruptcy in 2013 after I lost my construction company. And this is a classic example, right, Zach? If I had somebody like Zach on my team, I would have never got into construction. I had no real experience in it, no real knowledge in it, and I threw millions of dollars into something that had a little bit of luck and got going in the beginning, and then it eventually crashed and burned because I just didn't have the bandwidth or the knowledge, right? But my question for you is, right, Zach, why do you feel, and I heard you mention earlier, people put them in the wrong products or things that don't fit them. So you can dive deeper in that, but what do you feel it is about NFL athletes, and that staggering of a statistic going broke 5 years after retirement? Why do you believe that is, and how do you help your clients not become a statistic?
Well, so it's actually interesting. There was a interview probably 2 or 3 weeks ago that I caught the tail end of, but Cam Newton was on it and talking about money and how life is just different. When you're playing and you're making $25 million a year, money is not a constraint ever, right? It does not matter. You can go and spend whatever you'd like to when you're making $25 million a year. The problem is when you're done playing, your money now has to work for you. So you need to build this nest egg up and understanding what somebody's goals are and what they anticipate on their second chapter, right? I mean, unfortunately for football players and the NFL is not for long. The average career in the NFL is less than 5 years, and you're going to make a lot of money. And hopefully you sign that second contract, the 5 year, 85-year, $100 million contract, and you can set yourself up for life. That is generational wealth. And being able to work through that and understanding, hey, I know I'm signing a big contract. Well, how much of this is guaranteed? One. Number two, how much of this is actually going to end up in my bank account? I'm not actually making $20 million. I have to pay the IRS 40% of this. I have to pay the state, every state that I play a game in, part of this. I have a nutritionist. I have a physical therapist that I have coming in. I have a cook. I have all of these pieces to the pie, and all of a sudden you've got a huge bankroll. Every single month you have to write these checks, and there's a lot of people with hands out. If they're not careful, they deplete what they have, and then they can't do what they want to on the next level. They're taking jobs, again, because they have to, not because they want to.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is something that I feel I want to bring more attention to. And Zach, I'm so glad you brought this up. IRS taxes, because this is a big thing, right? And again, ladies and gentlemen, you talk about NFL, right? Say you make 20 million a year, that's great, right? But again, if you're doing that, about eight is gonna go right out of the door to taxes, right? Out of the door. And as Zach said, play in different states, different taxes. That is key. But then again, a lot of times NFL players will have a large amount of people on their staff. If they have, you said, a chef or a physical therapist or a massage therapist or a personal trainer, like it can go down the list, right? These are things that all cost. They are expenses. And then again, if you're married with children, there's cost, there's expenses, there's school, there's life, there's all these things. And so you have to learn how to watch this. And I want to speak, right, Zach, to the people that are listening that either have children in NIL, maybe athletes that are maybe doing NIL themselves. We get a lot of athletes, right, Zach, that listen to our podcast because of my sports background. Please get into how important it is for them to be aware of the IRS taxes when it comes to making NIL money and really trying to get their lives going. Like you said, some people might make 400,000 to 500,000 a year, but taxes. Please shed some more light for our global audience about taxes and how they should be preparing to handle taxes.
Yeah, so NIL is really unique. There is no W-2 income. It is a 100% 1099 income coming in for these kids. So they're independent contractors. They don't have anybody pulling any chunk of their money away. Every dollar that they sign a contract for ends up in their bank account. Now, the beautiful part for most of us that have W-2 incomes or, individuals that know what that is, you have a part of your check taken out and given to the government every time you get a check. So it kind of buffers that whole concept. The other side is there are clawbacks on these NIL deals that are just crazy. The kids that are like, oh, I'm going to hit the transfer portal and they gave me my $400,000 last year. Well, there's clawbacks that say that, now you're going to owe the team $60,000 or $100,000 for the team that you left. Did you negotiate that into your new contract? Are you having those conversations? Are you paying a agent to help you with those, negotiations? Then you sit there and you go, all right, I just signed a $400,000 deal. I ended up getting hurt or I sat on the bench for the year and I'm transferring to another school and I'm only going to make $50,000 next year. But I spent that whole $400,000 the year before. I didn't put 30% of it away in a high yield savings account to protect me. Well, now that $50,000 you're going to make the next year, you owe more than that to the IRS. So now, again, you're making decisions based off of where the money is. Obviously, we want to make decisions based off of money. That's a big part of it, but you don't want to have to make decisions based off the money. It may be a better scenario for you to go play for a team that makes a little less money if you're going to get more starting playing time and more tape. You're going to get paid more the next year than the guy that's going to go sit on the bench. So there's a lot of conversations that we just want to have with people. Knowledge is key. Understanding, again, we're all going to make mistakes. This is the NIL is the wild, wild west right now. We're seeing a lot of different pieces moving in and out. A lot of people trying to help. And we just want to be a resource for people. I mentioned it earlier, high yield savings account. It's a really easy way to kind of protect yourself, allow your money to grow for you, typically around 3 to 4%. Something easy to set up. You set up the account online, transfer money into it, and you sit there and you wait. April 15th is going to show up every year. The IRS comes knocking. They want their money, and you better have it.
What a phenomenal segment. I'm so excited to partner with you. Ladies and gentlemen, when I met Zach at an event in December in Winston-Salem with one of his clients and actually one of my clients, Christopher Cook, who's an amazing guy, I really like Zach's energy. And he's now a sponsor. And I've been connecting Zach with some really great people, some athletes, and it's a lot more to come over the next year. But I just connected him with my great friend, Marlon Kerner, who used to be the director of player engagement with the Buffalo Bills. Marlon played at The Ohio State University. He was drafted in the third round to the Buffalo Bills in 1995. So he played with guys like Orlando Pace, Joey Galloway, Terry Glenn, Eddie George, just some phenomenal athletes in college. But what you just said, Zach, I had no idea there were clawbacks or in your clauses in your contract if you transfer from one school to the other and you don't have it in your contract. You got to pay back money. I had no idea. And these are the type of conversations that we need to be having with our young student athletes because this is the type of stuff they need to be made aware of. And again, and you said it right, Zach, you get $400,000. That's awesome if you spend it all on stuff because you think it's going to keep coming all the time. And then it doesn't come next year and you didn't save or put money away, right? The IRS comes wants their money and you don't have it, then what happens? It starts compiling, it starts adding up, they start adding interest, they start doing all these things, and then you're in this nasty cycle of trying to catch up. And it's really difficult once that happens. So this is absolutely key. So Zach, one other question. When it comes to your firm, right, and how you work with people, just give us a basic general overview. Like if I came to you as an athlete and say I have, say, $10 million, right? I want to invest, I want to work with you, all that. Please walk us through, Zach, what that would look like. Because I want people that are listening that have some interest in potentially working with you to hear more about you and how you help people kind of like more from a tactical perspective.
Yeah, so Crown Wealth Group, we act as personal CFOs for our clients. Most people, high net worth or ultra high net worth individuals, have advisors, they have accountants, they have lawyers, they have brokers, but most of the time they don't all talk together, right? Unfortunately, that's where mistakes happen. There's gaps, there's frictions, there's things that just aren't working the way that they should. At Crown, again, we act as a personal CFO, so we understand your goals. We coordinate with your experts, whether they're our experts or your experts, whoever we need to, we are going to go in and we're going to deliver advice that works for you. The most important part of that is just understanding who you are, making all of those pieces work together. We even do things as far as concierge services, buying cars, boats, planes, course memberships, jewelry, whatever those things may be. A lot of times those are frustrating for our clients. We take all the frustration out. We allow them to sign on the dotted line, make decisions, and move on. And for them, that's where life, really hits where the traction hits the road. Bringing maximum efficiency not only saves them money, but it's going to save them time. The one component of all of us that have family and kids, and we need more time, right? We all go to work every day. We work really hard and our kids are young. And by the time that we have enough money, a lot of times they're already out of the house. And we've missed a lot of the opportunities because we're doing all of these pieces. We act in a way as a conduit to all of these pieces. We help manage the money. We help look through the tax scenarios. We're working with the accountants to make sure the structures are the attorneys to make sure the structures are set up right. We're putting in place estate planning, making sure that they have a will, a healthcare power of attorney. Even for the 18-year-olds, they need to have a lot of those things. And just being there to make sure that all of these transactions, we don't just create a plan, but we execute that from the first time that they make a decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is awesome. So Crown Wealth Group acts as your fractional CFO. They're kind of like your financial quarterback, working with everybody on the team to make sure that everything is moving and all the parts are aligned and working together. And that is phenomenal because, again, when you're a person that's ultra wealthy or high net worth or an athlete, time is important and valuable to everyone. But more money you make, the more things you have going on, the more commitments you have, your time becomes even more of a precious commodity. So Crown Wealth Group, what they do for their clients, they act as their fractional CFO or as their team member to help them get everything financially and, again, attorney-wise, accountant-wise, everything aligned to put time back in their client's pocket or put time back on their client's calendar or in their clock. And that's invaluable. Amazing interview, Zach. Great stuff. I'm so excited to keep connecting people in my network, athletes, people that work in the front office or have been in the front office, people that was comes to the combine and the reporters. Like there's so many people that I know that you have that I have in my network I can connect you with to help really make some things happen. So this is fantastic. Zach, if our global audience wanted to connect with you, how would they go about doing that?
My email is zach@crownwealthgroup.com. Zach, Z-A-C, crownwealthgroup.com. They can reach me on my office number and my office cell, 336-794-1592, or then go to our website, www.crownwealthgroup.com. We have a lot of information there. Again, I want to be a resource for people. Please don't hesitate to reach out, ask questions. That's what I'm here for. I love that part. Again, my mom, I didn't probably mention it earlier, my mom's a teacher, and I love to help people. I love to teach and, watch people learn from things.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, please connect with Zach O'Brien, one of our sponsors, again, from Crown Wealth Group. Sensational guy who's really here to help the athletes, the high net worth or ultra high net worth individuals create a blueprint that will be customized and work for them. Again, the authentic tip of this great interview, it's all about surrounding yourself with people that care about you, that are aligned with you, that are going to help see you and your vision to the targeted destination. And that's what it's all about. When you have that type of mindset, you are in prime position to win. Again, my name is Marques Ogden. I am the host of the Get Authentic with Marques show. Thanks for tuning in. Have a fantastic day.